Dragi gledatelji, dobrodošli. Ja sam Ines Žižić, a vi gledate Atma podcast. Moj današnji gost je Mahātma Prabhu, cijenjeni duhovni učitelj, mentor i autor koji je više od 5 desetljeća posvetio prenošenju mudrosti bhakti joge i osobne transformacije. Podučavao je na 6 kontinenata održavajući tečajeve, radionice i retritove koji pomažu pojedincima da duhovna načela uklope u svoj svakodnevni život. Obučen pod vodstvom jednog od najcijenjenijih vedskih duhovnih učitelja modernog doba A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swamija Prabhupade, Mahātma Prabhu još od 69. godine održava discipliniranu duhovnu praksu koja uključuje svakodnevnu meditaciju i proučavanje vedske filozofije. Osim njegovog iznimnog znanja, dodatni povod ovog razgovora je njegova najnovija knjiga intrigantnog naslova Duhovan, ali ne i religiozan. Pa krenimo! Dear Mahātma Prabhu, welcome to the Atma podcast. It's really privilege and honor to have you here with us to share your wisdom, your knowledge, and we are so happy to have you here. Especially, we've been planning this for a long time, but I always say now is the perfect time. So, welcome.
Thank you. We finally have done it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Can you tell us a little bit, where are you now at the moment? It seems very, very nice nature.
Where am I? I travel every week, so I have to remember where I am. Oh yeah, I'm in Amsterdam, and about a mile from where we're staying, there's a park. There's a forest, a huge forest, thousands of acres.
Wow.
So it just worked out that around the time we're doing the podcast, we're in the forest, and so we didn't have time to come back. So here we are. You know, that's not a fake background. It's the real thing.
It's a real thing, yeah. Today you never know, but I think it's a perfect setup, like in Srimad Bhagavatam, you know.
Yeah, we're in the forest.
Yeah. Okay, you've been on a spiritual path in this life for almost 5 decades, and I wanted to ask you, can you share a little bit more about your background and what inspired you to begin this journey?
Yeah. Well, you know, when I began this journey, people would always ask me, why did you do this? And I would say, well, you know, I was interested in understanding who I am, and I thought there was more to life than just working, which is kind of what all spiritual people say. But later in my life, I thought that actually the reason is that I began this in another life because I was so attracted to spirituality. It just made sense to me. And material life, as most people were living, didn't make sense to me. And that was when I was 17. And the only thing that makes sense is that the momentum was already there from another life. And so when you have that momentum and then you come in this life, you're naturally attracted to the spiritual. I was naturally attracted to Bhagavad Gita. And it was just easy to do. So it was kind of like, I was just looking for it, and when I found it, it was like, oh, that's it. So that happened when I was 19. And then I moved in the ashram and lived as a monk. And that was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I dropped out of university. I don't regret it. And I had the best time living as a monk. You know, what's interesting, when you live as a monk or brahmachari, in those days, we slept on the floor, not even a mat, just a sleeping bag on the floor, in a house that wasn't heated, cold showers in the morning. You know, it was like austere, at least externally, but internally it was the best experience ever. Like, you're giving up so many comforts, but what you're getting internally is amazing. So those were good years. And then later on I got married, and I love to teach. So about 25 years ago, I decided I wanted to formalize that and create a company to present workshops, seminars, and then that's what I do now, write books. All my workshops, I'm writing books for them. And I like music also. I do recording. And that's a big passion for me, and kirtan. So now I'm traveling a lot, presenting seminars, introducing people to spiritual life, and then taking people who are practicing and going deeper and deeper and deeper, because it's dynamic, it's unlimited.
Mm.
So that's what I do.
Thank you.
And
Let's talk a little bit about your new book. You wrote a book, Spiritual but Not Religious, Duhovan, ali ne i religiozan, which our readers can read in Croatian. So it's
yes,
a very, very interesting. And you know, I like the title, it's very intriguing. What inspired you to write this book with this topic?
in America, maybe other places, I don't know, because I'm from America, but in America, there's an increasing number of people who were spiritually inclined but disillusioned by religion, the religion, the common religion of their country or their parents, disillusioned by the dogma, their rituals, and they they wanted something more genuine, spiritual, without the things they found contradictory or questions they had that weren't answered in the religion they grew up in. They weren't satisfied with. So, but another thing is, if you look at the essence of all religions, you'll see there's certain spiritual principles like compassion, kindness, tolerance, and spiritual knowledge about the body and so forth. And so I found more and more that there were so many people who had genuine interest in spirituality, but were like disillusioned with religion. Even the word God like turned them off. And and so I wanted to write a book to address those people who were on a spiritual path that were searching. A lot of times they're searching and they don't know what they're searching for, or they want to be on a spiritual path. And I wanted to help them because I came from that, and so I kind of know what you go through when you're looking for, because you're looking to become more spiritual. And so what we did in the book was we we designed it for people who want to be spiritual, and how step by step they can do that, what they need to understand, what they need to practice. We have a lot of exercises in the book, for example, and it's quite entertaining and stimulating intellectually. And it was kind of like the book, it's basically the book I would wish I would have had when I was looking. And the book like that I wanted a book like I would give to like my friends, my relatives, but I didn't have it. So I thought, okay, I'll write the book. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. In your book, of course, you talk about this difference between being religious and being spiritual. But I think there's lots of confusion about what actually does that mean. For some people, spirituality, for example, means they like to go to the forest, they like to walk, watching the sun. And for some people, spirituality means like really dedication, austerity, monastic type of
Yeah.
life. There's so many techniques, so many schools of thought, spiritual
Yeah.
masters. I think this spiritual market is quite, also shady today because people
Yeah.
can really be overwhelmed. What would you
Yeah.
say? What is the true meaning of being spiritual? What does that person do in daily life?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a few meanings because you start with the word spirit. So what does spirit mean? Well, we are spiritual beings. So being spiritual means at least you realize, or at least you know that you're not just a physical being. So that's one thing. Spiritual also means in relation to the Supreme Spirit. So everything is created, everything in this world is coming from God or the divine, or whatever you want to call him. And a spiritual person sees everything in relation to him. And a materialistic person sees everything in relation to themselves, what they can gain. This is like, I look at this world and I think, well, what can I get from it? Spiritual person will see, what can I give to it? And how it's in connection with everything's connected with the Supreme. So like in my life, for example, I everything that I have, I try to use in service to God and to others. I don't think, oh, this is mine. I think it's a gift. It has been given to me. I will use it. That's a spiritual way of thinking. When I look at people, I think, how can I serve them? I don't see them just as physical beings, but how can I serve them spiritually? That's a spiritual way of being. I simplify my life. That's a spiritual way of being because I'm not a physical being, so I don't need as much. I joke with people. I say, you should become spiritual. You'll save money. You won't need as much. You'll be satisfied. And the other thing is, which is really important, is the nature of the soul or consciousness is that it's blissful. So when you realize your soul, you become happy. And so you become happy and satisfied. That's a sign of being spiritual for sure. Of course, you can be happy and satisfied doing many things, but this is a deeper kind of happiness, satisfaction. It's not dependent on having something or doing something. That's really a sign of a spiritually evolved person. It's not like they need circumstances to make themselves happy. They already are. They're connected with that. So how's that? Is that okay for a start?
Yeah. And also, can you tell us a bit more? How can people avoid being misled by the false teachings or false teachers? Or maybe the question should go deeper. Are there false teachers? Because, everyone gets what they deserve or what they're looking for, I think, in one sense.
Yeah, it's true. Well, one spiritual master lived about 150 years ago. He said, there's a lot of people that don't really want spiritual life internally. They want it like as a show, or they want to think they're spiritual. He said there's spiritual masters for them who give them what they want. And it's not genuine, but there's a market for them, and so they'll be there. One of the things is that if you're looking for a spiritual master, one thing you can observe is that if he has disciples, you're going to be like them. So you look at them and say, is this how I want to be? Do I think these people are spiritually evolved? Do I think these people can answer the questions that I have? Can they solve my problems? Can they satisfy my deepest needs and desires? In other words, are they satisfied? Are they knowledgeable? Because a lot of times, young people who are evolving, they'll go to their church, their priest, pastor, or whatever, and ask questions that he can't answer. So you don't want to go to a guru who can't answer all your questions. Where have I come from? And all those questions. What happens after I die? Why is there suffering? These are questions everybody has. But a lot of times you don't get the right answers. Or there's another thing is also there are books, Indian scripture, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and so on. And that's where genuine spiritual masters get their knowledge. So they're explaining what's in the book. So my spiritual master said, if you ask a spiritual master, who's your guru? And he says, I don't have one. That's not a qualification. He's, making things up, because generally gurus are presenting a tradition and keeping it intact as they've learned it. And so it's preserved. It's a preserved tradition. So every time you want a guru, ask who is your guru? Where did he get his information? Because they're meant to preserve it and pass it down. That's how all great traditions work.
Yeah, I love that, because today I can see there are so many persons, they say they are kind of channels, mediums. And I always think, well, why would I believe that, Yeah. Maybe you made it up, maybe some entity is talking through you, It's kind of, shady.
Yeah, well, look, you go and look at the results. Someone says they're a good doctor. Well, talk to his patients.
Yeah.
Who is he good? So he's a guru. Well, look at the people. Are they in a state that you want to be in? Or are they as confused as you are? Are they happy? Are they satisfied? Are they exuding love and compassion and kindness? Because they should be, because those are spiritual symptoms. And so, I think that people intuitively understand what it means to be spiritual, to be a little more detached than the average person, more calm than the average, more peaceful, more happier than, So if a guru can't give that to you, something's wrong. Or what to speak of, he doesn't have it himself. Sometimes you find, you hear these stories, it's so common, the guru is like, 2 a.m, one of his female disciples is walking out of his room. Like, what's going on here? That is so common. So, a guru is not like that. He's self-satisfied. He's self-controlled. He's disciplined. And I think it's easy to understand, spiritual people are simple. They're not They're not sensual people. They're controlled people.
Mm.
And I think the ultimately, if you're looking for knowledge, you're looking for truth, and you're sincere, then the saying goes, when you're sincere, the guru will show up. There's many stories. It's such a common thing in every tradition. It's a common thing where people hit a stage in their life where they're just like they hit a wall. They don't know what to do, where to go. And they're like, oh God, if you exist, show me. And like the next day, something happens. Not like a lightning bolt on the head, but they'll meet someone or they'll get a book or something will happen. And all those people will tell you that I had to go through all these experiences in life to come to that point where I was ready. And where if the knowledge that was given to me at this time was given to me a year ago, I wouldn't even have been interested at all. I wouldn't have been ready for it. So not everybody's ready. You may have to go through many things in life to get ready to. You're like, okay, what's this all about? I need to know. Some people want to know, but some people need to know. And when it's like, I need to know, I need to solve, I don't know what happens after I die. I need to know. I can't just live this life not knowing. I need to know how to be happy without materialism and drugs and sex and all these things. I need to be happy within me. I need to know. I need to know. Then divine arrangement, you'll meet the right guru.
Mm. I was thinking that mainly a lot of people arrive through practicing of spirituality when they suffer a lot, when they don't see any other, way. And why is that? I mean, can we just be, wise and, searching for absolute, when
Well,
we are happy, when
yeah,
everything is going well? Why do we have to, go against the
yeah,
wall or?
it's a good point. Because the nature of this world is we're not going to change unless there's something pushing us.
Mm.
And when we suffer, we tend to ask questions like, why am I suffering? I mean, you just look at this world, you think, okay, you get old, and that's not fun. And in the process of getting old, so many things happen that you don't want to happen. And then eventually you die. And when I was young, I was thinking, well, this doesn't make any sense to me. If there's a God, why would he put you through this? But it's a good question to ask. And if there wasn't suffering and if I didn't die, I would never ask that question. So the question I was asking is this all there is? Because if this all is all there is, it's not like, why did God make it like this? I go, oh, you only live once. All right, so, okay. Okay, if God said you only live once and you live forever, okay, that makes sense. And there's no problem, that makes sense. You only live once for 75 years and you were born, with a disease. Like what's that all about? So the suffering should make you ask, what's it all about? And when you ask, you start looking, you start studying, you want answers. And when you're suffering, you're not happy. If you have some in your past lives, if you were spiritual, you'll naturally gravitate towards looking for spiritual answers. And so the world is arranged to push you spiritually. And you're not going to get put, we all need to get pushed. And if there's no difficulty, we won't. I mean, it's hard for some people to realize this, but if there's no difficulty, we don't learn, we don't grow, and we don't have so much of a need for spirituality because everything's fine without it.
So
If I have
so you're
billions
saying that the suffering is good. So you mean
yeah,
it's a good push.
it is. It's necessary. I can say that for me personally, and so many people that I see that you're just going along, and you need something, like you said. Yeah, you need something to push you, and it's one of the things that causes people to come to spiritual life because the suffering doesn't make sense. It's like, why? What's going on? I don't. Why is the world like that? That's how I thought. And you're trying to make sense of it. And that's when you start looking. And I need to read books I need to answer this question. I need to, like my spiritual master used to say, the problem in the world, they're not the problems we think they are. The problem is I'm not happy. I need a bigger house, a bigger car. I said, that's not the problem. The problem is you're going to die and you don't know what happens after death and you don't have a solution for it. That's the problem. And he would always say that the problem is you're getting old and you're going to die and you don't have a solution, but you're an eternal being and the soul doesn't die. And that's a very awkward situation. So that's the problem. And so if you suffer in this world, you start asking those kinds of questions. Like, why am I not happy? Why is this going on? Those are good questions. We should ask those questions. That's what we're supposed to be doing as human beings.
Yes, and that already defines us as spiritual. Just this quest, just this looking, searching,
Yes.
what's the meaning? Like in Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, which is one of my favorite shlokas. Now is the time to question the absolute truth. When, if not now?
Yeah. And then there's a very heavy thing my guru used to say, and gurus are meant to be heavy. And he said, well, what's the difference between a human being and an animal? Well, one level, there is no difference. We eat, play, we play, they mate, we mate, they fight, we fight. But they don't have the ability to inquire who they are. Why am I just eating and sleeping? Human beings have that ability. So he would say, what a loss of human life if you have that ability and you don't use it. And then he would get a little heavy and say, so what's the difference between you and an animal? Of course, some people didn't like that. But objectively, practically, well, if I don't inquire about who I am and who is God and what's the soul, then technically speaking, there isn't much difference. It's like, what's the difference between a person who's blind and a person who can't read? Or excuse me, a person who doesn't read and a person who's blind. Well, there is a difference because the person can read, but he doesn't. So then, in that sense, the person who can't read and the person who doesn't read are in the same position.
I wanted to ask you this question. Today, it is very popular, this self-help, personal development, basically things which revolve around, I want me to be, to enjoy more in this world, to be more successful, to be more clever, to be more, but sometimes people confuse that with spirituality. They think if they are into these techniques, if they know this kind of knowledge, they are spiritual. But what would you say about that? I think it's a clear distinction that is not, it's just development of my, identity, which is connected to this body,
Yeah, well, it's true what you say, but it could be used for spiritual involvement. Like if you, let's say you learn techniques where you can focus on your goals, and then the question is, what's your goal? Like, so I teach some spiritual self-development techniques that are similar, but the motive for doing them is different. So I always think people who are teaching self-development, if you just teach people how to get things, but you let them decide what they want, they're going to get frustrated because the things that most people want will not satisfy them. They'll frustrate them because they don't know who they are.
Yes.
I had this idea. We have the book Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. So I thought, I want to write a book called The Power of Now What? And the power of now what means once you get everything you want, then you ask the question, now what? Like, what's next? This is not enough. What's next? And I think that's really important for people to understand. Like, you can get everything you want, but you as a spiritual being are different from your physical body and mind. So if you satisfy your mind and you satisfy your body and all your senses, you'll experience some kind of happiness and pleasure, but it's not the deepest happiness you're looking for. There's no love in that, so you accumulate what you want. That's fine. But what you're really looking for is love. And the love you're looking for is spiritual. And that's why there's always this frustration point that I get what I want, but I feel something's missing. It's spiritual that's missing. And it's frustrating because, you have a dream and you fulfill it. And still, it's like, I haven't arrived. Well, you're a spiritual being. You didn't fulfill the needs of the soul. That's why. So I think that's the lack of the spiritual self-development world. It's missing. It's showing people how to get goals, but not what goals that are really going to satisfy them or they really need. That's my pet peeve with that industry because I'm very aware of that industry. And I always have this dream that I'll be on an airplane and Tony Robbins will be on the airplane and I'll sit down and I'll say, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Do you ever feel like you've helped people get what they want, but there's something missing in their life that you haven't given them because they don't really know what they want ultimately? They just think they know." Anyway, I don't know if he feels that way, but he helps people get what they want, but not necessarily what really will satisfy them. And the problem is we're looking for love, but matter doesn't produce love. Love comes from within you. When you give, when you serve, then you experience love. And so in spiritual life, it's all about giving and serving, and that's how you become satisfied. But if you just try to improve yourself, that's good, and maximize your efficiency and, work on your own traumas and so forth. That's great. It's about you. But until you're giving love, you're still going to be empty.
Yeah, but people usually identify that with, loving my family, loving my society, and in that way they maybe think they are fine,
That's a different kind of love. But the spiritual love, it goes back to that point. If I'm a spiritual being and I only satisfy myself materially, then there's going to be a hole in my heart, and that hole is spiritual love. So material love is necessary. We need to be loved and so forth. But you're still going to feel something's missing because if you don't experience spiritual love, you're always going to feel like, I want more. I want more. I mean, everybody knows, like the thing is, everybody knows this. Everyone experiences this. And we go on and on, like, putting more salt in the vegetable soup. How much salt can you put in before you can't eat it? So we're just, we're putting more of the thing in the soup that doesn't make it taste better. There's already, enough in it.
Yeah, because we don't know any better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't know. And it's sad. It's very sad. And people suffer a lot in this world because of it.
That's true. As the Rolling Stones had this song, "I can't get no satisfaction." Yeah. There's a difference between satisfaction and really ecstasy and love. It's a big difference.
Yeah. And we're all looking for love, and we all are love. But we how we think we're going to get love. We think, well, I'll get love when I'm loved. But when you give love, when you give love to God, when you give love to people, that's when you get love, because you get to experience the love you give. But
is there any difference? I am not sure about distinction of it, giving a love to people and giving love to God. Because some people say you have to serve people, your family, society. God doesn't need your service. He has everything. You just serve, your the person next to you. And some people would say, no, you just only need to serve God. And if you serve God, everyone else will be automatically satisfied. So what do you say on that?
Well, what do people really need? Their real need is spiritual. So of course you can serve people's material needs. That's nice, but their real need is spiritual. And so that means, like, God wants all of us with him. And so if I go out and tell everybody, listen, God wants you, come back, that's a spiritual service directly to him, which is directly also to helping people. So there's different levels of service. So it is true that, we can help people materially, but the example, a person's drowning and you go to save him and you take off his shirt, swim in with his shirt. So, you save the outer covering, but the soul dies. So that's a higher service to help someone spiritually. And
what does that mean?
That is service to God.
What does that mean? How can we help people in a spiritual way?
To help them understand that they have a relationship with God, and he wants them to be in that relationship. He loves them and he wants them to love him. He has a place in the spiritual world for them. If you ask, what is my religion? What is bhakti? Bhakti is simply God loves you and he wants you to love him back. That's all it is. It's, 10 billion pages of scripture just to say that. And once someone wanted to give Mother Teresa some money or some big donation. And she said, I don't need it. And he said, what can I do to help? And he said, well, just tell everybody God's in their heart. He's their best friend, you know. So like that's our service to people, to tell them that God's there and he wants you. And you forgot, and that's why you're not happy. And then if you forget, then you'll come back again and again and again and struggle in this world. There's a world beyond this where there's no struggle, and we just don't know about it. So we think this is everything, and we work hard to make this work. The world is not meant to be perfect, obviously.
Obviously, yeah, that's obvious. Okay,
There's,
let me ask you this about the Vedic tradition and Vedic teachings. Bhakti yoga is one school of, let me say, school of thought, school of yoga in Vedic, corpus. What are the main similarities, but also differences between organized religions, for example, Abrahamic religions like Christianity, Islam, and Bhakti yoga?
in a certain sense, there is no difference because the essence of every religion is reconnecting with God through love. So on that level, it's similar. Where you find differences is in context. Like Christianity, Jesus died for you. If you don't accept him, you go to hell. That's the story. Islam has a story, right? It's Muhammad. So you find they fight over stories and various beliefs. But when you see people praying to God and offering their devotion and service to God, it's all the same. And I can prove it. And I'll prove it by this. If you listen to the devotional songs of all traditions, they're all singing the same thing. Oh God, please help me, please save me, please make me better. You're my Lord. You give me everything. Thank you. They're all singing the same thing. They have different, stories and theologies and contexts, but when they're praying to God, it's the same. So to me, you really get the essence through the prayers of the different traditions. So my spiritual master used to say, well, the essence is love. And if your religion produces love for God, then it's good. And if it doesn't, it's not. Because what's the point of it? You ever heard that saying, we have enough religion to hate one another, but not enough to love one another?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have these rituals. No, that's fine, but what is it producing? That's the point. So if it's not producing love, what's the point? Because that's the point of spirituality, is to produce love. And like you're saying, if you love God, you will love everybody. It's just natural because everyone is part of him. Everyone is his son and daughter. If you love your father, you love your sons and daughters. You see that in any great saint. They're so compassionate and so loving. It's just natural. So that's the if the world had more love, obviously it would be better. If we all had more love, obviously it would be better, and we'd be giving that love, and we'd be uplifting people, and people would come in our presence and they'd feel peaceful and happy because we'd be exuding this love from within us, and people would feel it. Because I saw that with my spiritual master. You could feel it a mile away. Just by being in his presence, people would change dramatically. Sometimes immediately seeing him, they would change because of his love. And so if you have religion, people look at some religions and the pastors are just yelling and screaming at people. It doesn't look like love. You're going to hell, this and that, you sin. It's natural that people are looking for spirituality beyond religion if people are preaching this kind of thing, because people intuitively know God is love and those who represent God should be loving. And when they're not, it's like, what's wrong here? It's almost like the pastor's got his own personal issues or something. Why is he screaming at everybody? Why is he angry? It's not.
Yeah.
Could you imagine Jesus, getting up on the mountain screaming, you're all going to hell? I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk more about Bhakti Yoga. Can you give us, like in essence, who we are, where do we come from, and why we are here?
We are a little tiny spark of consciousness within the body. And the proof of that is, right now, you can observe your thoughts, right? Whatever you're thinking, just observe your thoughts right now, whatever it is. And because we can observe our thoughts, that means we must be different from the thought because we're observing it, right? We can observe our bodies, sensations in our bodies. We can see our arms and legs. We're observers. Who's observing? It's this little spark of consciousness within the body. So that's one way we understand what it means to be soul. And I think maybe the easiest way is to understand what happens at death when the body's there, but there's no consciousness. So someone will say he passed away. Someone else could say, well, he's right here in the coffin. Yeah, but something passed out of the body. If you've ever been around someone who dies, at that moment, something passes. Like switch got turned off.
Yeah, and when we say he left, he left.
Okay. He left. Exactly, he left. And that's true. He did leave. The soul left. So I was born in America. I'm a man. So on the bodily level, I think I'm an American man, or you're a Croatian woman, or we are what the body defines us as. But in spiritual circles, we say I am soul, and anything else you say other than soul is a false identity. I'm man, woman, I'm a teacher, I'm a lawyer. That's an identity related to your physical. And your physical only lasts for this life. So, but you as a soul, you existed before this life. You will exist after this life. So your identity now, what you think you are, is just one along the way. It's just one set of clothes you're wearing now. When you understand your spirit soul, it changes everything because then you understand you've always existed. That's the meaning. You know how in Christianity they say life is eternal, but they don't think it's eternal before you're born?
It just started at one point, and then after that, it's eternal.
Yeah. So how did that become eternal? But eternal means always existing, never. So never did we not exist, never will we in the future not exist. We always, that changes the whole game. This is not your first life. You existed before. You're coming in with karma from a past life. You have a certain nature, certain good and bad will come upon you. So the important thing to understand, for people to understand, is if they acknowledge that they're spiritual beings transmigrating from body to body, that process will go on forever until you make this divine connection, reconnect. Yoga means to connect. So you make that reconnection, you'll stay on the physical plane. But you can get off the physical plane to the spiritual plane. And there is something that's hard to describe. I'll try to describe it. It's like what happens after. Well, either you will take another body, another material body, or you will take a spiritual body because now you're liberated. When you no longer have attachments to this world, you will not take a body because you only take a body because of your attachments. You study Buddhism, that's clear in Buddhism, they talk about that. So I'm attached to things of this world, I'm attached to this body, I don't want to give it up. Okay, you can come back and take another body. It's just how it works. But when you become spiritually elevated, connected to God and detached from this world, then you go to a spiritual world where you don't get old and you don't die. And there is no suffering. There's no misery. Sounds good, doesn't it?
It sounds amazing. Yeah. Where can I sign?
You know something really for your listeners to meditate on. Sometimes I think if I just didn't have a body, then I wouldn't have these pains in the body. If I didn't have a mind, I wouldn't have the pains in the mind. And I could just exist as a soul, and the soul is blissful. But now the soul comes in the body, and it forgets its soul. It identifies with the body, it identifies with the mind. So then all these crazy thoughts we have, we think that's who I am. That's my identity. We identify with all our emotions. We identify with our physical pains and so many things. And if you think about it, all our suffering is because of that, because of the pains in the body and the mind and the heart. And if you could extract the soul from the body, then you wouldn't experience that. And I want to tell you something interesting that I've seen firsthand. It's crazy. But I take people in a guided meditation, I kind of take them out of their body. So I get them to just meditate on themselves, identify as consciousness. And then I ask them, now imagine you're going through life. So you try to imagine yourself like 80 years from now. Like, what might you look like? So your body's gone through all these changes. You're the same person, you're just observing. So you observe all these changes. If you're 25, imagine what you look like when you're 40, when you're 60, when you're 80, maybe 90. It's interesting because you can see that you are just observing a changing body. Then we ask people, imagine you're in your last days of life, and now imagine you've left your body and you're above your body as a soul, as light and bliss, and you're looking down at your body. It's a really interesting experience to imagine you as a soul looking at your body, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So it's like you're hovering, you imagine there's the bed and you're above it. And so we bring people to this consciousness in their imagination, and they kind of disidentify with their body during the meditation. And they say, no, I'll just exist as a spiritual being, bliss, knowledge, eternity. And then we say, okay, now we have to bring them back in their body. So now, it can't stay like that. Now come back in your body. They come back in their body, open their eyes, and we say, tell us what you experienced. And you know what they all say? It's
What?
so funny. They all say, I didn't want to come back in my body.
Hmm.
I was out of my body as a spiritual being. I didn't want to come back into it because coming back into the body means now temporary, identified with the body, the pains of the body and mind and so forth. And these are people who are not necessarily spiritual, but they all say that it was so nice not to be in the body, just to be a pure spiritual being. So I think that's important for people to understand, because as a pure spiritual being, you are happy. You are free. There's no death. There's no old age. There's no limitation. It's the body puts limitation. So that's the first law of spiritual life. You're not the body.
Yes.
Spirit, you are a spiritual being. And what also I think is really important for people to understand, is so enlightening, is like, whatever you're doing in this life, you already did it in other lives. It's nothing new. I have all the ambitions. You did that all. You have these ambitions because you're already having those ambitions in another life. And, when will you be satisfied? How high do you have to go with your ambitions? So, we have so many desires and needs. It's interesting to think, I've done all this already. The one thing I haven't done is try to become self-realized and get out of the cycle. I've done everything else. So I always tell people, well, do something different. You wanna become a best at this, great at this. You already did that a million times. Once you become self-realized, that's the one thing you never did.
Hmm.
So I think that's important to focus on. Like, I'm a human being. I could do self-realization. I never did it before. This is what I should be doing.
Yes. You said a few times that we can have a spiritual body. I mean, for some people today, it's quite a contradiction, spiritual body, God
Mm.
and person. So can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm looking for some answer about who is God, what is the absolute truth. I always ask my guests about this question.
Yeah.
It's the highest, most sublime question of all.
Yeah. Well, some people say God's just energy and we're just energy, but two energy balls really can't have a relationship. So do you really want to eternally just be a ball of light and no
No.
relationships? The number one topic searched, I think, or at least in the top three, is relationships. It's like a million books on relationships. It's so important. Then we come to spiritual life and we say, well, there's no relationship. It's just energy.
I don't want to go there. It's boring.
Not, it's like, okay, I have a light bulb. The light's coming out of the bulb, but it's coming from the bulb. So God is light. All right, that's fine. Where's the light coming from? My spiritual master would always say, You say God is energy, he's light, he's nature. All right. Where's that all come from? So the personal conception of God, the problem people have is if I say God has form, they'll say, but form is limited, right? So they say that God must not have form because form is limited. But if God is God, why would form limit him? Because he's unlimited. He's not limited to not having form. So to say he can't have form is a limitation on him. He can have a form which is unlimited. So I think it's important for people to realize that we want relationship, and everything we're looking for in relationship in this world is really, we're really missing that original relationship with him. So we have spiritual form in the spiritual world, and he has spiritual form. And it's beyond any conception we have of like Christian heaven. It's like, you have to read about it. But I would say this much. There is an existence where everything you'd ever wanted in the deepest regions of your heart is fulfilled in that existence. And it's not fulfilled in this existence. It's not the way he made it. He didn't make it to happen here because he wants you to go there. That's where you'll find real love eternally, what you're really looking for. And you can experience it in this life through spiritual practices. You can experience that love and that personal relationship.
That's my next question because I want to give my viewers always something practical, which in which they can experience this spirituality and connection with God.
Yeah.
So how can we bring this universal Vedic teachings, especially Bhakti Yoga, I think, which is the most sublime and like really, really universal, in one sense, very easy. How can we bring it into our daily life and spiritualize our daily life?
Yeah. Well, as I was saying before, everything in this world belongs to God, including you. So, and every talent you have, all your intelligence, your wealth, whatever it is, where did you get it? You didn't bring it in when you were born. It was given to you. It's a gift. And so in bhakti, we say that those gifts are meant to be used in service to him, not in service to yourself. Because well, that will not make you happy and it will not benefit the world. He created you to serve him. Now that people say, well, it sounds like a selfish God, but you'll be happy when you do it because it's your natural position to do it. And that's how your love will awaken. So that's one thing. It's like everything you have actually belongs to him. That's a hard one, especially to acknowledge your body belongs to him. And if it belongs to him, then it should be used for him, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
And everything should be used. Yeah. So, there's some resistance to that. Obviously, people will have. But that's at least something to meditate on. Another thing to meditate on is that consciousness of love, spiritual love. That is the consciousness of the soul. So that's not something foreign to you. It's something you have. It's who you are. And so as you practice spiritual life, that consciousness emerges. So you begin to feel this love, and it feels very natural because it is natural. So, of course, one of the things we do in bhakti is chanting, because that ignites that love. And so when you chant, it feels very natural because it's awakening or reviving your spiritual consciousness, your love, your connection, your divine connection. And so that's really, really important to have some kind of spiritual practice. Because if you have spiritual life, you need some spiritual practice. You need to do something. I think a lot of people are spiritual without a spiritual process or practice. And that's, you can't evolve steadily. You need some kind of regular practice. Meditation, chanting, studies, journaling, worship, association of other spiritually minded people. So important. One of the biggest things I would recommend is anyone who's on a spiritual path, you need to associate with people on the same path that you want to be on. Because it's really hard to do on your own, almost impossible, especially today in this world, because it's so materialistic. And I'm sure many of your listeners have this experience. You want to be spiritual, but the nature of the world is just pulls you away, isn't it? It's always pulling you away. And so it's like you decided to go left, the world pulled you right. You need to be around other people who are going left. That will help you. So that's essential in spiritual practice, to find spiritual practitioners, to have a regular spiritual practice like what I do. I think most of the people you interview have some spiritual practice, right? That they do
Yes.
every day. So I've been doing it. I'm on my 56th year now. Well, 55 and a half.
Wow.
Chanting the same mantra. This is so amazing. Chanting the same mantra every day for 2 hours. How could you chant the same mantra every day for 2 hours if it's not spiritual? You would go insane. I mean, try chanting anything for 2 hours. It's not spiritual. And if you chant a mantra, like the mantra we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You chant that every day. Just for 5 minutes, your life's going to change more from that than anything else you could do. It's so powerful.
Wow.
That's a spiritual process. And all the things that we're talking about, just by chanting, you'll realize it all.
Yeah, no,
Because
knowledge
it's in,
comes naturally. Yeah,
yeah,
because it's within us.
exactly. It's there. You know everything, but you don't know it until you purify yourself, and it will come out. And practically everyone who reads Bhagavad Gita, at least who's attracted to it, when they read it and say, "I know all this," except I couldn't explain it until I read it. But I feel it within me. I just couldn't put it into words. That's because it's there in you, and it's just being stimulated, activated.
Yeah,
Yes.
please read Bhagavad Gita. We still have this action, obratit ću se sad na hrvatskom, još uvijek traje akcija Bhagavad Gita za svakoga, naručite je kod nas samo za cijenu dostave, u stvari donacije po vašoj želji i poštarine. Stavit ću link u prihvaćeni komentar. I think we are reaching the end of this conversation. I know you are very busy there. You have, I think, lecture this evening. So maybe can we end it with some, inspiring message for our viewers? We usually end it like that.
Okay, I don't know how inspiring this is, but this is going to be a funny message. I was going to say, you said, we were talking about chanting Hare Krishna. Like, it's a powerful mantra. We talked about reading Bhagavad Gita. It's a powerful book. And I just did a retreat. And after the retreat, I was asked by other members, other friends, they said, how did the retreat go? And I said, I think I seriously damaged people's material life. I think I think they're going out and they can't just go back to their old lifestyle anymore. They've experienced something much, much better. So sometimes I joke with people. I say, I have to make a disclaimer and a warning that if you read Bhagavad Gita regularly, if you chant regularly, your life's going to change. But of course, it's going to change for the better, but it's going to change. And if you're ready for it to change, you should do this. And if you're not ready, maybe not, because you won't be able to deal with it, because it's going to change in such a good way. And it's kind of a joke, but it's true, because these things are very, very powerful spiritual processes. So I would just suggest for people who are spiritually inclined, definitely they should study Bhagavad Gita, because it will answer all their questions. They should chant every day because it's going to help you understand Bhagavad Gita, the chanting, and that you should associate with spiritually minded people who can support you, to go to sanghas of spirit where people are doing kirtan and chanting is so important. And you will find things in spiritual life that you could never find anywhere else. You'll just feel like you found jewels in your life, in your heart, and you'll be so grateful that you have it, and you'll feel so special and fortunate that you found this, because you'll see how your life changes, and you'll see how the world just keeps going on in the same way, even to the point where you'll think, why are people still doing what I was doing last year? Why do they keep doing that? It doesn't make sense. You feel so fortunate. So I would encourage you, do it. Go for it. You'll be happy.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you here today. I wish you all the best in your ongoing mission for spreading this wonderful knowledge. Thank you again so much for being our guest.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Dragi gledatelji, evo zahvaljujemo se Mahātma Prabhu na ovom gostovanju. Nije mogla biti bolja reklama za ovu našu akciju Bhagavad Gita. Toliko puno ste naručili Bhagavad Gita, ja mislim 2-3 tisuće, još uvijek traje akcija Bhagavad Gita. Kakva jest od Desi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada koju šaljemo svugdje širom svijeta samo za iznos poštarine i vašu donaciju po želji. Link ću staviti u prikvaćeni komentar. Također knjigu Mahātma Prabhua koja se zove Duhovan, ali ne i religiozan, možete nabaviti. Taj link ću također staviti u opis videa i prikvaćeni komentar. Hvala vam što ste bili s nama u još jednoj epizodi Atma podcasta. Šaljem svima veliki pozdrav iz užarenog Splita.